Well, brilliant. Trying to top that this week has given our plinthers a bit of a headache. But Max Humphries from Surrey reckoned he was up to the challenge. Let's find out a bit more about him.
I'm Max Humphries. I'm a freelance puppet maker and theatrical engineer. So on the plinth, that means that I'm not going to be up there as myself. I'm going to be up there as a giant steam-powered robot. I quite like the theatricality of it and the concept of doing like a little performance on the plinth. I come from a long line of inventors, so I quite like to think about the spirit of invention as a concept. And I was going to do a guy with big mechanical wings like the Wright brothers, but then last week I thought, no, I'll build a giant robot instead, so I've built a giant robot. This is my mask. I can put it on if you want. This is the steam engine on it, so we've got a chimney which is going to have a little smoke machine in it. There's this bit which I've kind of semi-painted up, which is the boiler. Oh, and a couple of arm bits. It's quite fun. There's quite a bit left to do. I've got to do still a bit more making to do, and then there's the whole painting. But so yeah, I'm going to have to be up all night, I think, working on this and right up to the deadline. Fifi's exceptionally understanding about what I have to do. But she doesn't like robots at all. It was our first ever argument as a couple, happened about that. She said she'd never have a robot in the house. But yeah, she's got one now. I'll take a while for it to come through. Let's get that works.
So he's dressing up as this robot, which I think is exciting. I think it's going to be different. I don't think anybody else has been dressed up as a robot yet.
I hope between me and the Godzilla guy, everyone else is going to realise they've got to massively up their game and stop just turning up in t-shirts and start building. I think the artiness of it hasn't been quite brought to the fore yet, and I want to see more people's kind of inner artistic ability exposed.
Oh, well, here is Max Humphries. So we're going to watch your performance in just a moment. But had you got this costume all worked out, therefore you applied, or had you been successful in your application?
I applied, like, the theatricality of the event quite interested me. So when I heard about it, I think I heard about it from word of mouth. I applied quite early on.
Yes.
But I was quite surprised to get a piece. And then kind of I was going to dress up as like Otto Lilienthal, who was like an early aviator.
Yeah.
And then with about a week left, I was like, no, I'm going to dress up as a giant robot. And unfortunately, my brain works in such a way that I had to dress up as a giant robot then. So there wasn't much time, and it was a lot of work.
So you did it in a rush, in anticipation of...
I do everything in a rush, unfortunately, but
yes.
yeah.
Well, I don't know about that, but anyway, this is you've actually got your head here. That's the...
Yeah.
So what's that made out of?
This is fiberglass and a bit of Renaflex, which is stuff in your shoes, and a lot of paint, a bit of plastic, a bit of found bit, other bits.
Well, it's fantastic.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Okay. Now, of course, Max, like all plinthers, was chosen completely at random and allocated a slot which he couldn't change. Max got this 7 p.m. slot on Tuesday.
Prime time.
Which is not a bad time, was it? So let's take a look at how he got on. Okay, so that was a snapshot. You approved of the backing track.
Yeah, I love a bit of black stuff.
Okay, jolly good. So that's a steam bot.
Yeah, it was kind of. I kind of wanted to do something that was. I'm quite into. I'm a puppeteer, so the kind of the life that's in inanimate objects interests me a lot.
Yes.
And I quite like Victorian things, and I kind of wanted to have something that was very British. And I think modern robots are very either Japanese or American. So I went back to our glorious industrial past.
Old English robots. When you say a puppeteer, are you a string manipulator or a hand up the back?
I'm a modern puppeteer.
Yes.
So I kind of I make puppets for other people mainly, and I also make kind of mechanisms for people and things other people can't make.
So you're a modern day Jerry Anderson rather than a Clive Anderson.
Oh no, more of a modern day kind of Brothers Thrus, I'd say. I'm more interested in kind of the ancient automata makers.
I see. But physically up there, what was it like? Could you see out of your costume?
I can see out of these two little holes here. So it was a bit like I think I probably experienced the plinth the least of all the plinthers. But
but were you worried about?
I could hardly hear or see what I was doing. There was one point my mother started shouting, "You're very near the edge."
Yeah.
And that was a bit worrying, and I kind of took a step back. But yeah.
Yes. So I mean, it wouldn't be too dangerous because there's a safety net.
Yeah,
but it'd be a bit humiliating, I suppose, wouldn't it? To be,
So, yeah.
And could you react to the crowd apart from your mother saying keep away from the?
I didn't have much time to get into my costume,
Yeah.
so I didn't get to do a lot of my final checks. So some bits of it weren't quite secure as
Yeah.
others. So I tried to keep the movement down to a minimum. You can see one of my seams slipped, which makes me feel quite physically sick when I see it. But
And do you think that other plinthers should be inspired by the nation you've put into your costume?
Effort's always, I think, a personal thing. I hope they wouldn't need me to be inspired to do something. I mean, they're on the plinth in Trafalgar Square.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite a famous artistic venue. I'm hoping
Yes.
that will force them
So,
into.
would you approve of this? Not the effort so much, the imagination that's gone
Well,
into it.
imagination, and I love the fact that there's skill involved. I mean, that's the thing, that you've really used what you can do to create something to share with people, and I think that gets a total thumbs up, 10 out of 10. That's very
Okay.
good.
Jolly. Well, on that happy note, we'll move on because remember, as well as watching Max and the other living statues, you can still become one. To enter the draw, just log on to oneanother.co.uk and follow the links. Plinthers for September will be drawn on the 1st of August. Now we're going to take a quick break now, but there's still lots more to come, including this.